I'm Mike, that's Vieko. We are LeGrudge and Rugged, I guess. We built Krunch, we started in 2010, and we launched it in 2012. Yep. So it took about 2 years to develop the game.
Because it was late, let's just clarify.
Well, we'll get into why it took 2 years. But it originally started from a prototype. What's that?
Use the microphone.
Oh, you can't hear back there?
No.
All right, we'll get on mic. Mic check.
Switch it on.
Hello.
All right, sorry. That's okay. We'll just give it to me.
Yeah. So Krunch was initially conceived, I guess, at Ludum Dare. It was originally called Colostrum, and Vieko really did it. I was out drinking, and
I had to beg him to come over and actually work with me on the game.
Yeah. I kind of came in at the last moment and did a few levels, maybe.
Yep.
That was about it. But yeah, so the game was called Colostrum, and it was done for Mini Ludum Dare 21. And yeah, I think.
Initially, because I mean, we were talking about it on a Friday, right? Just coming with a concept, you know, what kind of fear can we play with, right? And I think we both agree that closing walls is pretty fucking terrifying. So we ended up going with that. And initially, the game was going to be running on like the center, like the dude was always going to be in the center, and everything was just going to kind of crunch you in, right? We kind of got away from that because I was like, you know, it's for the timeline that we have. We had already a running prototype for like a side-scrolling type thingy, and we ended up just building it on that. Yeah. I had like 2 levels done super quick, and then Saturday we had a dinner at my house, and you know, he was supposed to show up. He was like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna be. And eventually he showed up. Everybody was hating us because we decided to put on hold the dinner, and we just kind of like, you know, hid away and worked at the game, and yeah. We were not popular that night, but we managed to finish it. I found this dude online, and I'm like, I need some really hectic music for you to put together, and he delivered, and you know, we had Colostrum.
Yeah, it was funny when I was looking back at these photos and stuff. There's actually 2 things that actually made it from this prototype, the original one, to the final build of the game.
Yep.
That's the spinners. That sprite never changed.
Never changed.
And then this this tile here, we kind of used it as a grate.
Which we stole from the original Flexel. Like it was in Flexel somewhere.
I never knew that actually. Yeah, and actually this level is still in the game as well. It just looks a lot better than that.
Right.
But yeah, so Vieko titled it Colostrum, and there's a fun fact. Colostrum is actually a thing. This is why we don't let him name games. Okay? So the Ludum Dare Jam happened. We turned it in. We were happy with it. It was fun. But I don't think really Krunch was born until we went to the Winatron Jam in Winnipeg, obviously. This was when Alec was really trying to get Winatron off the ground. So we flew out to Winnipeg to join up and build a game that was going to be on the Winatron. And it was really supposed to be just for the Winatron at that time. And
it got out of hand, obviously, right? We were, I think after Colostrum, we put it on hold for the longest time because Mike wanted to do an Iron Maiden game, which we will eventually make.
I still want to make that game.
And he did the absolute worst sprites you can imagine of like Bruce Dickinson trying to run. It looks like he's having a stroke. But we put that on hold, you know, a week or 2 before the Winatron Jam, just to have a little more beef to our game, because it literally had like maybe 20 levels, most of which were shit, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of crunched through that, and ended up going down there. Something happened to Mike, and all of a sudden he's making music, you know.
Yeah.
He made the base of all the music he wrote for the game over 18 hours in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
I don't know how he did it, but it was sounding great, and he just went with it.
It was all GarageBand loops. It still is. It still is. Yeah. So when we were there, we settled on, well, we were trying to settle on the name Krunch. I liked Krunch. And Vieko wanted to name it Yikes. This is why we don't let him name video games. But yeah, so this was the original starting screen at first, and then.
But it looked cool.
Yeah, and actually, if you look at the title screen for Krunch, it really hasn't changed all that much at all. So after the Winatron Jam, we kind of came back and we were like, you know what, we actually got something here. Let's flesh it out. So we started building it. It was about 5-6 months we spent on it, and in that time, we fleshed out 4 worlds, 88 levels of the. We were pitching it at 125 at that point, and I think it actually launched it around there.
Yep.
One of the boss chases, and we knew that really my music. If we were going to finish it in time, I didn't have time to do the music and levels and sprites.
He keeps on telling himself that it was really crappy at the time. And that's the reason why we looked for it.
It was really bad too. So we contacted Disaster Piece, who at the time, I mean, he'd done a few things, but he wasn't what he is today, obviously.
In fact, our sound designer had more of a name than he did at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't even mention Jordan in this presentation.
No, because you suck.
I do suck.
Continue.
Yeah, so it's funny because we went to go, we were going to launch in March, and we contacted Rich in February, like mid-February. So we're like, hey man, you got 15 days, dude, get it done. Yeah. And we cut the FGL trailer. So,
well, you're missing between the Winatron and this, we attended 2 or 3 big game jams where
you
showed
did.
it.
I didn't.
Right, because you flaked out.
I did flake out.
So I attended, I should say, I attended and made fun of him publicly in like 2 or 3 game jams. Like 1 in Vancouver, 2 in Winnipeg, or 1 in Winnipeg, I can't remember. Anyways,
yeah.
We did. I did that.
So yeah, Vieko was going to game jams.
Yeah.
I was not. But we were, at the time, we thought it was a good way to make money was to do the whole Flash Games license and to submit this game to portals, like online portals, because at the time, the people that we knew were doing that, and they were making a few $1,000s here and there, so we're like, why not? It's built in Flash, we could do that.
Yeah.
So, March 2011, we submitted the game to FGL, and it got a 7 out of 10, which I actually went back and looked through the reviews and stuff.
Yeah.
It was, I think there were 6 categories. We got 4 7s and 2 8s. Mm-hmm. And we weren't very happy about that. Who wants a 7? So average, right?
So we said nothing at that point.
Yeah.
We were like, well, you know what? It's a review, it's fair, whatever. And then some dude, he's like, I'll give you $150 for it, so we can put it on a portal. And I just lost my shit. And at that point, I did contact the reviewer, and I was like, motherfucker, like this is what's happening because of your, you clearly have not played this enough. And that, it's not because I was attached to the game, to be honest with you, because. Okay, I was attached to the game a little too much at the time, but yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
FGL didn't work out.
FGL didn't work out.
Yeah.
So what we did was we contacted the other developers that we've met through the game jams and submitted to platforms that we knew that we could at least get a contact and get like our foot in the door. At least send an email to someone specific instead of sending it to a forum. So it really does pay to go out and meet other developers, because every now and then they'll have a lead for someone down the road. So Congregate was Greg Woolwind. He did.
You did go to the Victoria Jam.
I went to Victoria, yeah, but that was actually before Winnipeg. Right. That was the first jam we went to.
Yeah.
So that's got no bearing on this presentation.
Okay, continue.
Mike and Greg, they did Slobskier, which did well on Congregate. They've gone on to do a bunch of other great things. You guys probably know who Matt Thorson is, but we met him in Victoria.
Yep.
And was he at Winnipeg?
No.
No, but he was Skyping in.
Yes.
Yeah, he Skyped in. Okay. We didn't meet Tom Fulp from Behemoth, but he emailed us after we were kind of putting stuff out, and he was like, "Oh, I'd like to play Krunch for Newgrounds," and then he never emailed us back again. No. So I don't know what that means.
He probably hated it.
He probably hated the game.
Yeah.
And then Armor Games was big at the time, and Andy Moore was the one that set up Work and Jam in Victoria, and he had a good ties with Armor Games. So we actually we submitted these to the to these platforms. We got kind of far with a few of them.
We got really close with that.
We got really close with that on Swim. It was really, really close to a contract. But at the end of the day, we just kind of figured that it wasn't going to work. So in April, we decided to go full indie with Krunch. We were like, okay, we're going to self-publish. This is absolutely terrifying, but we're going to do it. Yeah. So we decided to set out. We had, you know, the rest of the year, pretty much, to keep on working on it. In that time, new tiles, new sprites, new levels, lots of polishing the levels. The random characters, because at the time, I think we just had one character.
No, random characters a little later than this.
Was it later?
Yeah,
okay.
Just a touch later.
The second boss was added. Intro animation was added. Disaster piece finally. He started sending stuff in. Yeah. And it was incredible. It was absolutely like it blew us away. So my music was not up to snuff anymore. Like I was like this. I can't hang with this guy. So I had to go back and redevelop a lot of my music. Like just
under the direction of Rich, though. Yeah.
Yeah, he helped me. And that was awesome. I got to say, like working with that guy, and he would just give me pointers like, "You are doing this completely wrong." That's pretty much what he told me all the time.
Nicer than that.
Nicer than that, but yeah, Rich is a nice guy. And lots of playtesting. We were trying to put it in front of everyone.
Whenever I saw a child that I thought could actually handle the pressure of the game, I made him play it. Like, you are playing this game.
And the child that was not terrified of this. That's the other thing, right? Yeah, so December comes along, and we think we're getting pretty close to launch. We're pretty happy with it. So we brought Sarah Gross in, 2-Bit Art. She's been doing illustrations for a lot of indie developers. Yeah. And we commissioned her to do basically an illustration for each of the bosses, was it? And then
that was the first one, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the end of the game, there's an illustration of the Blinky. Right, the creature, we're now calling him, I don't know. Yeah. And the tubes. So, intro to the game, all the bosses, and the conclusion.
Yeah, we had this moment when we were like, you know what, we need to package this a little better, because although we had a really decent poster, and we don't have a screenshot of that already, we had really good stuff to show it off. I kept on going back to my price possession. I have this box copy of Castlevania 3, the old Konami silver box with like the epic illustration on the center. It's like it looked nothing like that in the game whatsoever, right? It was like pixels and whatnot. But when you held this and you looked at it and you went through the manual, you were like, yeah, right. That's what I'm seeing on the screen. Although I'm not seeing that on the screen, but in my head it's playing that way, right? Okay. So we ended up going with the same sort of like idea. We just basically told Sarah, imagine this tiny little thing encountering these ridiculous bosses and rented her out, right, in the colors of the schemes, and she came up with this.
Yeah, I mean, at the time too, we didn't have the third boss or the fourth boss race completed. Like the levels weren't done yet. So we basically just handed her the sprites. Yep. And we said, these are the sprites, illustrate.
This is kind of what I do, yeah.
Illustrate how you would see it. And I remember when those illustrations came in, both of us were just like, damn.
Yeah.
That was
usually as it happens when you start to polish, right, we started to compare what she had done to what we actually had on screen, and we're like, oh, we kind of have to up it a bit, and another coat of paint went into it, and we ended up redoing the green tiles, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I mean, there were things in her illustrations that I saw, and I was like, now my pixel art looks like crap. Okay, I gotta fix it. Yeah. So yeah, more polishes.
More polish, yeah.
Which leads me to our next slide. We polished for another 5 months.
Yep.
Just kept on going. More tiles added, more levels added and redesigned. The third boss at that point was completed. Each of the actual heads, even though the ending's the same, we had to do a separate ending for each of the heads, because it would just be weird if all of a sudden your character switched over.
And they look the same.
And they look the same. So those all took time. Disaster Piece had actually completed all of his tracks at that point. I was still revising my music.
At this point, we brought in Jordan Fair.
And Jordan Fair
to wrap up all the sound. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we had like stolen sound from everywhere, like just you name it, whatever place you can download, chiptune stuff. Yeah, we got it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was what was it? SXVX. There's a program you can use.
Sound effects or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, so we had Jordan Fair come in and really put another level of polish in the sound, which was At the time, I didn't actually think we needed it. I was like, oh, we'll just use the stuff we have. It's
I had
great.
to say, it was like he did Super Meat Boy, and he was like sold.
Yeah, so. And Jordan was awesome to work with, too. He just came in and did a whole bunch of stuff for us for very quickly and super high quality, but that's...
Yeah.
All right, then hiatus. So Vieko had a son, and I was burnt, and I just watched football drink beer. Which was great for a few months, and then kind of Vieko was like, well, dude, I mean, come on, let's get back in this.
Yeah.
And then, for the last few months of 2012, it was literally crunch time. So we were like, we need to launch this game by the end of the year. That's actually a sticker on Vieko's refrigerator that his girlfriend was like, the days are counting down. You need to get this done.
Yeah. So we hired a production manager, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
So she kept the pressure on quite a bit.
So it's totally true that saying what the last 10% takes 90% of your time. The amount of polish that goes into that last 10% is ridiculous. You kind of see that a lot of the stuff you were doing, it was good, but it's not good enough. So you're just polishing and polishing and polishing. And animations, again, I went back and redesigned all my music again, even more playtesting, plus all the marketing materials, which are super important, right? So the website, Greenlight was out at that point, so we started our Greenlight page pretty early. We wanted to do the collector's edition, which I'm sure some of you guys have seen, which is actually the printed copy. So we started that at that point. Launch trailer, I recut a brand new trailer for it.
Commissioned a comic book.
Yeah, we commissioned a comic book from Sarah. Yeah, I mean, it was a funny thing. We went back, because I was looking at the trailer, and I was like, oh, we could probably use the same one, until I went and looked at the original FGL trailer, and it's like, wow, there's like literally not a sprite in here anymore that really, caters to what we did. And the other thing was we started sending out developer copies to review sites. So even though the game super early, the game wasn't done, but if we were going to launch by ourselves, we just figured we'd get it out there and see what we could get. We launched the game on December 21st, 2012 at 3 a.m. I did not know about it. Vieko and I had a conversation on the 20th. And he's like, yeah, we'll do it in the morning. No, it was the 21st. He's like, yeah, we'll do it in the morning.
Yeah. And I had a few drinks, and I was chatting with what's his name again? Captain Jameson. He's got a game called Captain Jameson. I can never remember his name anymore. So he's drunk as well, right? And he's like, dude, I'm launching my game right now. I dare you to launch your game. I'm like, you know what? I'll take that.
He never told us. This is the first time I'm hearing this.
So he's like, okay, 1, 2, and like we're like, Skype doing this, and we launched the game at the same time. Just went live at 3 a.m.
So I wake up in the morning, and my phone and Twitter is just going nuts, and I'm like, what happened? Holy shit! My game is live, December 21. Probably not the best time to launch a game. There's so much noise out there with the holidays and stuff like that, but it happened. It was out. It was done. We had a lot of conversations. I was adamant about pushing the game till in the new year, and Vieko made a good point, and that is that no one has any money in the new year because they spent it all on Christmas presents, and I'm like, I guess that's true. So we just went with it. We ran with it, and so we launched it in December. It did okay. It did fairly well. We had some traction.
Well, actually, no. You should say. On the 21st, we launched the pre-order.
No,
the game was like, you're right.
The game was out. The pre-order, we did do a pre-order.
I was really drunk.
We launched a pre-order.
November something, I think.
Yeah, it was about
3 weeks from.
It was about 3 weeks before. And I remember the moment we launched the pre-order, we announced it on Twitter and Facebook and all that. Not even 5 minutes later, it was like Humble Bundle 3, and it's like all anyone was talking about. And it's like we are so screwed. We are so screwed.
Everybody was like dumping their money on the Humble Bundle.
Yep, and it was a good one too.
It was the second one.
Yeah, it was 2 or 3, something like that. Yeah.
It was a Super Meat Boy one.
It was a Super Meat Boy one.
No, I can't remember.
I think it was.
Continue.
Anyway, so yeah, people cared about Humble Bundle.
Yeah.
So we went, I don't know when the Mash Bundle was, maybe, it was like 3 weeks later. We decided to jump into the bundles earlier rather than later. I mean, when Indie Royal hit us up, I think that we both said, yeah, automatically. In the back of my head, I was like, well, shouldn't the game be out a little bit longer if we're gonna, jump into a bundle within 3 weeks? But ultimately,
It wasn't 3 weeks.
it was something. It was not that far.
No.
What was it?
I'll find the date.
All right.
Just keep going. It wasn't.
It was 3 weeks. So yeah, so we did a number of bundles with Krunch, and it took about, I don't know, what, 6 to 8 months of bundles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I would say. Well, actually, what is it? Not even. No, it would have been about 3 months of. No, I take that back. 2.5. 1.5. 1.5.
There was a period of time in there.
There was a period of time. It felt like forever. It felt like forever to me.
You're missing it in between, though. Like, the all the game jams, all the showing the game to other indies paid out. Yeah,
It did.
From the get-go. I think the initial pre-order was like, I would say 70% indies.
Yeah.
And word of mouth that came out of them.
Yeah.
Which got us really it didn't make us financially successful or anything like that, but it got us reviews, it got us interviews, it got us it got us a lot of press that we kind of needed at the time, because we hadn't done anything up to this point at all, like nothing at all.
No, I mean, but this was our first game. We were totally unheard of.
So the thinking behind jumping in, or at least I'm justifying it that way now, is that we wanted to get the game in the hands of as many people as possible at that point. We just want the people playing our game at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Hating it, loving it, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that what not only did, at the time when we were going through the FGL, not FTL, it's an awesome game though, the FGL process, the other indies kind of got us contacts and someone to email. But they were also advocates of the game for when, the launch did happen. I think that they really helped us spread the word around. So it was super positive. Then, February 19th, Krunch gets greenlit. Holy fucking shitballs. Mike makes a celebratory run to the liquor store. Vieko, you did wrap the Steam development in Mexico. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I had holidays, right? I was like, we're never going to get launched. It's never going to happen. It's, whatever. And then I'm in Mexico, enjoying my holiday, and this thing hits. And I'm like, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
Again, and launch it drunk again.
You did?
And just put it out there on Steam. And yeah. It didn't take long, actually, from greenlit to Steam.
No, well, actually, yeah, right here. And just to actually notice it when, where's David? He's in the back. When you were talking about all of a sudden someone on Steam clicked it and it was live and it was greenlit, or not live, sorry, just greenlit. Same thing happened to us. We'd been on Greenlight for about 4 months at that point, and we'd made it to, I think it was around 82% of the top 100.
We had a lot of votes, though.
We had a lot.
Because this Greenlight is different today than it was before.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. We were kind of in it earlier when people, I think, cared more. I think that's the case. So we weren't anywhere near the top 100 games. So that's why literally when we saw it was greenlit, it was holy fucking shitballs, because it was crazy. Because we weren't expecting it. Steam development we did in about a month. There were things that were valid points that the reviewers had pointed out about the game that I think we wanted to correct for the Steam launch. Controller support, the leaderboards, self-destruct, which really irked me because the whole time we were testing the game, we had a self-destruct button in it, and then he decides to take it out at the last moment when we launched the game. And that's the one thing Destructoid said, like, yeah, this game could have been a lot better with self-destruct.
It's a little thing to complain.
Little thing, yeah. Still.
It's better than complaining about the game.
True. That's true. Steam achievements which were added, that took a lot of testing
Yep.
to get those right. And even when we actually launched the game on Steam, there were a few bugs in the achievements which people totally pointed out to us all the time.
Well, that's what happens. The funny thing is that when you're testing this, you're not thinking people are going to cheat to get the fucking achievement, right? But they started cheating to get the achievement, and in the process broke a few of them.
Yeah.
So there's actually 2 that you can't get no matter what, and they're there just to troll them, basically. I mean, not the guys that we like, but the guys that we don't like. At least that's how I.
Yeah. We wanted to do trading cards. I love Steam trading cards. I think they're awesome. So we figured we would do 1 for each of the Krunch, which are these dudes, and then trade them around. There were some that actually, when it first launched, I mean everything changes after the game goes for a while, but there were some that were like some Krunch cards were going for like $18 or something like that. It was super cool.
And it was not me spiking the market. I think it was right.
And then yeah, I recut the original launch trailer to just add a few things for the Steam launch to raise the profile a little bit. So now we come to probably what you guys are questioning: units sold. We have approximately sold a little over 27,000. As you can see, most of that's in bundles, which is no surprise, really. If you look at it in the graph, again, no surprise. Indie Royale was good for us because it was really early on. It was our first bundle, and then Humble Weekly has such a following that one spiked by quite a bit.
The one thing that was interesting, though, was that we had promised everyone that had purchased the game they would get a key when Steam launched, regardless. Yep. So, I think that kind of hurt our Steam sales at the end of the day, but we went from having, I can't remember what it was exactly at the time, 600 retail activations or something like that, to like 19,000, night and day. Yeah. So at one point we had thousands of people playing Krunch at the same time, competing on the leaderboards, cheating on the leaderboards.
Yep.
Doing all that kind of stuff, and I, that made me feel good.
Yep.
Until it kind of sucked because I was like, fuck, we could have sold more, but yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, live and learn. Yeah. So I mean, this kind of, to me, this isn't a surprise to see the bundles spike so high. Takeaways: get to your playable prototype as quickly as possible. The naysayers, the people that are like, I don't really like it, really take their criticism to heart, because they might be right about a lot of things. Don't brush it off.
A lot of the times when I was testing it, and like they were like, this is really not my type of game. No, I insist. Please do play it. I wanna see what it is that you don't like. Mm-hmm. And you learn quite a bit from those that are like physically rejecting it. But
yeah, it's fine. Make friends often. So I think that Krunch probably wouldn't have done as well as it has if we had not become friends with some of the other indie developers in Canada, in the States. So I highly recommend that anyone, fly to game jams, go to GDC. I know it's expensive, but it's worth it in the long run. You'll meet people, and they'll become advocates of your game. You'll become an advocate of their game, and it does help. It does help a lot. Steam does not mean financial. Yeah, that's his coder shit. I don't know. And the other thing is, timing is everything. There's definitely some luck to everything as well.
I think how we launched the game earlier, it probably would have done better financially.
Yeah, we had originally set out to launch Krunch. It was like mid to late November.
Yeah.
I think it was the third week of November we wanted to launch, and we were about a month behind on that. So it's, timing is everything, right?
Timing is everything, yeah. And then here's the thing too, with Steam, and that's another thing that, in hindsight, I'm like, oh, maybe that didn't make sense. But when they approve you on green light, it doesn't mean that you need to just do it immediately, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it read in my head at the time, and his head too, and we just did it. But we could have actually sat on it and waited for the perfect time, or for a better time to launch it, as opposed to launch it when we did. We really didn't play around with like, okay, what's coming out this month? What are we going to be going up? Are we going to be going up against, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We really just put it out.
There's a lot of unknowns as well. I mean, obviously the best case scenario is to launch your game on Steam. We would have gotten more sales. I have no doubt about that. But would we have been greenlit without having the game launched? I don't know. I don't know. Like, I can't answer that question. But
well, we submitted like a 6-month-old version of Krunch to Steam, and we got like declined very quickly. So you know, it wasn't ready for prime time.
Yeah, I guess that's another point that I didn't even think of. But when we were going through the whole FGL process, when we just originally had that prototype, we had gotten a contact for Steam, and this is when Greenlight didn't exist anymore. It didn't exist yet, and Steam turned us down. They said, "No, this doesn't really look like our type of game."
Different time though, too.
Different time. Fast forward a year and a half later, and they're all about getting games to market that are of that scale. So, timing, right?
Yeah.
And beer?
And beer, man. always beer. And that's it. That's all we got. So, cheers, gentlemen.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks for your time. Questions?
How did being in so many bundles affect your average sale price? Like, did it go? I'm not looking for exact figures, but I'm trying to figure out, is it like half of the regular staff price, sale price, 10%? I don't know. How much does it?
It all depends on the bundle itself. And I mean, a bundle like the Indie Royale will negotiate differently than Humble Bundle would. They would try to cut you down as much as possible, and you know, we argued that back quite a bit because they were like, "Oh, well, you're not even on Steam. You know, we can't give you this much percentage." And I was like, "Well, motherfucker, you need an extra game to launch, so you are going to give us that percentage, right?" So still, they gave us less, but you know, we got a little bit more.
That is another thing to know that we didn't mention, but you get about half in the bundle as other developers are on Steam. So if
Depends.
but for the most part, what we saw was that if there's a bundle with 5 games and 4 of them are on Steam, they were making what, 12? Whatever the breakup was, you know, whatever the percentage was, they would get more, and a non-Steam game would get less.
You would get less, yeah.
Yeah.
Humble was better.
Humble was better.
They, it's especially the one we were part of. We were part of a weekly. It wasn't like the 2-week long one where you see hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? It's you basically have a week to sell it, and we were in really good company for ours, I think.
Yeah. You know what? I think actually both of our bundles we had good company.
They were pretty good.
Yeah. I was happy with one.
What was I going to say?
Which helps as well.
Yeah, Humble was very good. Like, I mean, the split with Humble was across the board the same. Everybody got the same, and obviously, you're not getting the full sale price of your game, you know, but you're getting it in the hands of 14,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ballpark, I mean, if you don't want to share, that's fine. Is it like half of your average sale price, or? I'm just curious because I know it depends on how much you sell on Steam versus bundles. But
I can't remember what our bundle was selling at. I think it was selling about the average on the sell on the Humble one was between $6 and $7 for bundle. Yeah. So do the math. Like, we were getting like $1.50 tops, I think, out of like each one of those.
Yeah, I think
so it wasn't. It did spike sales though. That's, you know, I mean, you got that many people. We did see a spike in sales on our website. All of a sudden, people were buying collector's editions. So we printed 500. So some of those moved, which was interesting. Because I was like, damn it, we have to ship them now.
Yeah.
and assemble them because, you know, I mean, we have all the stuff. We just don't have them all assembled.
Yeah.
That's sad for him.
It was horrible.
But
it's horrible. Yeah. It sucked. But actually. The collector's edition, I think we broke even on. I mean, we still have a lot of collector's editions back at your basement, really.
Yeah.
But that was really cool, and I would really recommend that if you guys are launching your first game to do it, because I love seeing it. Like, I love just having it, you know. Like, this is something that we built, and it's a tangible object now. And I can't even tell you how awesome it is when you get your game ordered and you have to ship it to Saudi Arabia. That is awesome, and it costs a lot of money too.
Yeah, it costs a lot of money to make a collector's edition though.
Yeah.
Like, don't be fooled. Like, you know, you'll be dumping quite a bit of cash in there, but It's like first game.
Yeah, it's the first game.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know about you, but I would do it again.
Yeah.
I would absolutely build another collector's.
Although
edition.
now with those cases, they're no longer.
They can't. Yeah, you can't even print or get those cases anymore. So.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Are you gonna make another game or Krunch 2?
Well, immediately after the game launched, you know, I mean, we had been in this cycle of, you know, contract work for 10 months or 6 months or whatever, save money, and then jump on games for 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, whatever, right? So doing Krunch and selling it and whatnot, it kind of gave us money in the bank, and we got comfortable a bit. We did start actually working on prototypes. We started working on Binge, which is the follow-up to Krunch. We started working on Chihuahua Libre, which is not the follow-up to Krunch. And we got somewhere with those prototypes, but I think I was just burnt out personally.
Yeah.
You know, where we got to the point where I was like, you know, we can keep going on this, but once you start crunching the numbers on, like, I keep on saying Krunch. Mm-hmm. Once you start crunching the numbers on it, you know, the vision we had for those two games were like 18-month-long development processes, bringing in 2 additional developers. You know, for Chihuahua Libre, like, you know, an animator for sure, full-time. So, like, price started to go up and up and up, right?
What
and
was the size of the game? Would you maybe enhance it, maybe the plus levels or something?
Krunch needs it.
Yeah.
The game absolutely needs a lot of levels.
Because each level takes, like, I mean, depending, we don't want you to spend too much time on the level. I mean, that's in Krunch itself, right? It's a game that wants you to be stressed the entire time. Like, you're basically getting chased and killed and whatever and maimed, you know, all the time. That's a feeling that you want to get out of.
For the final product, it's great. But do you think financially, would people still bother if they say half the size?
I think people already say it's a short game. Yeah, and I can see it. I mean, there are some people that will never beat Krunch. Like, it's a difficult game. It was designed to be difficult. But I can run the game in 45 minutes. And I mean, yes, we built it, but there are people that are better than me at Krunch that I've actually tried to call out on Twitter and take them off the leaderboard, and I can't do it. I can't do it. So, which is awesome, actually. Like, that's super cool. But yeah, I think that Krunch is still a fairly short game. Like, if you can beat a game in under an hour, does Krunch need more levels? No. No, it does not. But I don't know. I think the package that it is right now is what we set out to build. So I wouldn't shorten it. I think that it's
I don't think that's what took the longest actually for Krunch.
Because you didn't do it.
It was
you didn't build the levels.
I know. So that's what
you
you
built some of them, but
no, it was the polish was what took forever.
Polished it forever.
But no, I mean, answering the question, like, of building a second game or a third game, like, yeah, I mean, you definitely want to keep on doing this, right? It just feels that we needed a break at that point. And actually, we found the break in building board games and card games. Yeah. It was like one of those things where, like, we're like, you know, we're running out of money, we're running out of time, we're going to have to get back into contract pretty soon. Instead of prototyping digitally, let's just start prototyping in paper, right? So I was just telling Owen, like, you know, that led to, like, a Magic addiction. Like, I am addicted to Magic now. But
no, really, it's bad.
and you know, I mean, I'm playing Legacy. Like, I'm in full on this thing now. But we came out with, like, some pretty good ideas, and it kind of, you know, most of our board games are kind of video gaming in a way because we make video games, right? So it was a nice break, and we I mean, we put Toe Test out.
Yeah.
When was it? Recently.
Yeah.
And eventually we'll get back to,
yeah,
I don't know, game number 2, whatever you're working on.
Yeah, I'm working on a prototype. I actually haven't even showed it to him yet. But I don't know. I like where it's at. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I absolutely want to do another game. I think Binge is an awesome follow-up to Krunch. It's completely different than Krunch. It's very, 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 very different. But at the time, for right now, it's too big for us. The idea is too big for what we aim like.
And making it smaller, I don't think would do justice.
No, I don't think so
just
either.
because it's a different type of game. Like, it is a very different game.
Yeah.
It's a reversal, right? Where you're no longer the little head, but you're one of these gigantic things chasing the little head in our world, right? Just trashing everything in the process, right? So the prototype was awesome, you know, and I was like, oh, okay, it didn't take that long. But then when you start piling up the levels and the amount of illustration and
the level
you're
progressions,
like, okay,
the weapon progressions,
yeah.
the way that everything unfolds, it's a big game.
Yeah.
It's a big game. So
one day.
Oh, it'll happen.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
It'll be game 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Not 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yes.
So you mentioned there were times or periods of time where you guys didn't work on your game. Did the thought ever cross that maybe you should just move on and pack up and work on something different?
You know, for me, it didn't.
I'm not wired that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't let go. I was like, you know, and it wasn't even a matter of like the amount of time and money invested, because there was quite a bit of money and time invested, right? But yeah, it would have felt wrong to just shelve it. And I feel terrible with, like, you know, our earlier prototypes. Like there's a few really cool games there that they're probably never going to be built because they're just missing that one thing, right? But they're there. They just, you know, you play a level and they need breaks. And I feel terrible about that already.
Well, it's part of prototyping, though. Not everything works. I don't think I would have given up on Krunch, and it's mainly because we had spent time and energy on it. Like, you know,
Mike went through like 2 girlfriends or 3 girlfriends for Krunch. It's a longer lasting relationship than your actual game.
It's true. Yeah, don't get me. I think that there were points in development and very early on where I was not sold on Krunch. I think that's an honest statement. I wasn't. I was like, oh, whatever. It's not that good.
I don't want to argue with you. I'm just going to do it.
That's kind of true. That's kind of just the way it went down. I was like, sure, we'll just keep on grinding on it. Then I don't know exactly where it was, but there was a point where it was like, wait a minute, this is actually cool. There's something here now, and we can start building it. I think what it was is it just took. I like to build atmosphere. That's and I didn't see it because it didn't have it in the very early stages.
It was all mechanics.
Yeah, it was all mechanics. So I didn't see it. But as soon as we started adding, you know, the alien heads and the worlds and stuff like that, I was like, I am so in now.
I've been asking Mike for a little over 9 years now. Whenever he comes up with an idea for a prototype or even Krunch, I'm like, dude, why don't you just flesh out a screen of what the game looks like if you were to pause it? You know, UI, the levels up to the levels. Like, no, I'm not good, I'll do it. Not once has he done this.
I'm doing it right now.
He could have had this precious atmospheric moment, but he just didn't get to it.
Yeah.
Until now, apparently.
It's taken me some time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was ready to give up on it early on, but once I saw the atmosphere and the mechanics working together, I was in.
Yeah. Apart from Steam, what other platforms do you guys sell this game on?
We put it on, we launched it initially on our site. It was just on our website and you could just download it from there. It was for Mac PC and Linux. Then we put it on the Zura. That was the second one.
Yeah, Zura.
Then it went on Steam. It may still happen, but we really want to get it on the 3DS. I think it will be a phenomenal fit for it. It will have to be adjusted quite a bit because some of the levels are stupid with a little stick like this, right? But
yeah, we were actually before. What's it? Dan Alterman?
Yeah, he's on
Edelman. I can't remember how to say his last name. Before he left Nintendo, we actually were in talks with Nintendo to get it on the 3DS. The biggest problem was it was a Flash game. It had to be redeveloped from the ground up.
Yeah.
Same thing, we wanted to put it on iOS. It had to be redeveloped from the ground up.
Was Air available at that time?
Oh, Air sucked balls, man. Like I can honestly say I never in my entire life will build anything in Flash or ActionScript again. Yeah. Like it's as much as that sucks because, you know, Flixon and I kind of became one, right? Like I remember at some point I noticed that Flixel did not have garbage collection on it, right? And it never became apparent to me until, you know, I used to see Mike testing the game for hours and hours, and he would get so slow, and I was like, damn it. So, you know, send a note to, like, I remember chatting with that at Saltzman, right? And he's like, oh yeah, dude, like, totally, like, there's a version that I have to have him push light. I'm like, fuck, I just build my own garbage collection, right? But never again. It's just, it's too Adobe, it's too, like, you know.
Flash is dead now, though.
C#, definitely. Something in C#, call it whatever framework you want to play on, or put on top of it, that's the route that I would take. Just because compiles to everything nowadays, right? It's just, it makes the most sense. It will take longer to set up, I think, and to get all your pipelines working and whatnot, but it would pay you dividends in the future. Putting together controllers for Krunch in a month was insanity. Like, you know, just trying to get, you know, an Xbox controller to work with Air, it was crazy. Forget about a PS4 controller. Yeah. I mean, I started working on a PS4 controller and I just gave up. Because at one point, the thing would just like flip buttons on you. And I was like, how am I supposed to map this shit, right? Like, there was like no, anyways, yeah. Yeah, and Air, initial iterations of Air were so slow on everything. I mean, we submitted it to the BlackBerry store, remember? Because we wanted to get a free thing.
No, we did get it. We got a free BlackBerry. What was it called? I don't even remember.
It's like the BlackBerry thing.
Playbook. Yeah, it was a playbook. We got a free one.
So we got a free one, and the game runs so slow on it. I mean, it worked, right?
It did run.
It did run.
You got it working on BlackBerry.
We got it working, and I mean, we had a basic version of it running on iOS as well, and it felt okay. But reality was that, you know, to get the feeling that grind that you're doing, you know, with a tablet is just, it would have taken us a long time.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too about you also have to see how the game fits on a platform. Like anything with a controller, Krunch fits well because that's how we tested it for the most part. iOS, I mean, you're looking at a whole different controller scheme. So the game not only would have to be recoded from the ground up, but all the levels would have to be rebuilt. I mean, there are such precision turns in Krunch that you just would not be able to do by swiping.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, we kind of gave up with like porting the game as it was, and we started working on a prototype for like, it was like that time where like everybody wanted to do an endless runner, right? Like, what's the name? Had just came out. Cannonball was out, and everybody wanted to like, you know, I was like, you know what? Krunch Cannonball! And we started working on that.
Yeah, we called it Crunch Runner. That was the prototype name. And that game still would be cool.
Yeah.
It, like, the prototype that we had, I think had a lot of legs.
Yeah.
But it was just, at the time, we were really focused on just launching the game. You know, because we started thinking about porting it before we actually launched. Once we realized we'd have to rebuild the entire game from the ground up, it was more important to us to launch the initial game and then come back to it if it came out, like if it got to it. We just never went back to it.
Yeah.
But that prototype is cool.
Yeah.
So other than Steam, did any of the other platforms make you sign anything weird? I know Steam has like this non-disclosure.
Everybody tries to make you sign something ridiculous. Like it's, I mean, even not even platforms, but I remember the first contract that came in from one of the Bundle people, not Humble, the other one.
Yeah, Humble was
I was like, dude, really? I mean, this is, we're giving you a percentage of a game you haven't built in exchange for your contacts. It's as simple as that, right? Take the percentage, we take our percentage, and everybody's happy. It was like this overly complex thing. But yeah, everybody wants to cover their back, so they see that's just the world we live in, right? We contacted Xbox, like Microsoft, never heard back from them.
Yeah, they were interested at all.
PlayStation did talk back to us, but again, Flash to, you know, PlayStation is just not, it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I think what you said is a good point, and it's kind of another takeaway that I'm glad we went down that road, but sometimes you just got to let things go. Like if there's a contract that's not going to work out in your favor and it's too predatory, let it go. There's something else that can come up. Not that, you know, Adult Swim was predatory or anything else like that. Like that was a very fair contract, but it didn't fit, so we let it go.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to let things go if you need to.
Yeah. It worked out better in the end.
I think so.
I mean, if Krunch would have been sold to Adult Swim, I mean, I think we would have had a lot of eyeballs playing it on their service and whatnot, but it would have never been a Steam game. Right?
Yeah, and
we would have been building Flash games still.
Yeah,
probably.
I think that was the biggest thing, and I don't want to go too far into that contract, but the biggest thing is that Adult Swim would have retained the IP. So they would have retained the whole, you know, if we wanted to do Krunch 2 or Binge or anything like that, we would have to ask them to build it.
Yeah.
And we weren't okay with that.
Yeah, it would have been like, you know, Marvel having to call mutants enhanced people or whatever. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, it is. Sony can only call them mutants.
Yeah.
I think
That's
so.
right. That's right. So yeah, so be okay with letting it go. Yeah. If that's it, guys. Cheers.